Thanks, Alvin. Good afternoon, everybody. Really excited to have the Alvin and Roger show on the road again, uh, and really appreciative that you joined us today. So first off, just want to say thank you. Your time is very valuable, a lot of demand, so thank you for joining us this afternoon. Hope that we cover off some good nuggets that you could take away. The other thing I just want to touch base on very quickly before I move into the content, the first few slides you're going to see are drawn from content published by CompTIA in their 2023 Trends to Watch. So I just want to acknowledge CompTIA's work and contributions on the content. So without further ado, one of the key things we want to talk about today are the trends to watch as seen by CompTIA going into 2023 and beyond. I'll walk through each of these 10 items very quickly, but the key message is the only constant is change. The trends that we're going to talk about today really range from people challenges to process to tools and beyond. So the change is phenomenal. We've seen a lot of change in the last couple of years driven by pandemic and other business evolutions, and that's not going away. So the first couple of bullets on that chart, business as usual gets a reality check. Things have changed certainly there. Second is worker-employer relationship gaps expose new challenges. We're going to drill into those in more detail, so I'll park those for the moment. Number 3 on the chart, metaverse initiatives will focus on holistic customer experiences. So a trend to watch for is how will things like the metaverse impact customer experience? This is not just about a virtual reality. This is how will clients and end users interact and how will the client experience be impacted? Fourth is all around cloud acceleration, driving demand for orchestration with the support and FinOps teams. As you're aware, anybody that's been on the journey, the focus on cloud for many years is just put stuff in the cloud, put stuff in the cloud. Now we've got to wrangle it. FinOps needs to get involved, and we need to have a focus on effectively managing the sprawl of the cloud and the applications and the usage, what's in the cloud, both from a support and a financial perspective. Number 5, new players in the digital ecosystem. If there's any change that has impacted the ecosystem and how we just work day to day and live personally day to day, it's the new players. If you think about the disruption that Uber, that Airbnb, and other companies similar have introduced into a variety of industries, we will continue to see new companies and solutions challenging the status quo, and that's good. Generally speaking, the consumer benefits from that. They really push existing companies, those long 100-year-old companies, it pushes those companies to evolve. They're forced to change. They're forced to look at their business models. However, the choice can be constrictive. You run into issues perhaps where the application interoperability is an issue. You may have a support model forced on you that you don't like. So we do need to watch that. Number 6, vendors, partners eyeing more automation. I imagine pretty much every person on this call today and the organizations you're working for are really focused on automation. How can you get more out of the tools that you have? How can you make your teams more efficient? So automation will continue to be the focus. However, the challenge is seamless integration across your platform may not always be available. The other interesting note from CompTIA's perspective is automation may have a negative impact on client experience. Yes, it's great that you can automate. We've got chatbots, etc., but you don't have that live personal interaction that really drives to that next level of client experience. So that's something we need to watch for. Organizations for number 7 are really taking a different look. For those that joined us in the fall, Alvin and I hosted a cyber insurance seminar, and we heard a lot of great anecdotes and stories about how cyber insurance is evolving and what, from an insurance company perspective, they're looking for. What organizations are really starting to do now is they're doing some risk assessment. They're understanding where their gaps in security are and determining, are they prepared to accept that risk? What is the financial obligation if that were compromised, et cetera, and making a very determined and focused approach to their cyber security risk mitigation. No surprise, inflation. Number 8, inflation, uncertainty, supply chain issues, geopolitical issues, et cetera, continue to influence everything for consumers, end users, organizations day to day, and that will not stop. Web3, really as we move towards Web3, from a CompTIA perspective, they believe really it will become all about the decentralized identity. Instead of being about a particular organization, it's more about our personal identities, our digital identities, and individuals will kind of drive Web3. And finally, number 10, advances in AI spurring debate over the value of the content. Chat GPT, anyone? The caliber of documentation and responses coming out of AI is unbelievable at this point. The lines between what's real, what's created are definitely blurred and will increasingly become blurred. So it's really driving a requirement to focus on responsible management of that data, understanding what the societal impact might come from the technology, and we need to have a special eye on user rights and privacy as well. Technology ultimately and society are now so intertwined, we have to maintain that balance between the two, a healthy balance, to make sure that we are focused on true, correct, factual information being circulated. So those are the top 10 trends to watch out for in 2023 from a CompTIA perspective. Let's drill down on the first two. Business as usual gets a reality check. External forces are forcing change. These can be things like new players in your industry. It could be things like inflation, demands for business, etc. Evolution is not an option. Organizations must evolve, and they need to look differently at how to thrive. The way that they're doing business now and in the future must be different from last year, 5 years, 10 years ago. Secondly, new challenges in hiring and retaining talent. I'm going to talk in a couple of minutes about how that relates to an IT support organization, but the way people are engaging with employers is changing, and experienced IT support and cybersecurity skills remain in high demand. Candidate expectations are changing. They're looking for 100% remote work. They're looking for flexible hours to work when it works best for them. Highly focused on career development and other things that the organization can offer them. Being a lifer doesn't exist anymore. People coming into the workforce now are expected to change not only companies, but potentially complete careers 3, 4, 5 times in their lifespan. So how they engage will change dramatically. And finally, the gig culture. People are more open now to working on short-term contracts, moving from one opportunity to the next, again, versus being a lifer. Let's talk about the IT support roles. So there's no shortage in the news about massive layoffs, Google, Microsoft, etc. But the IT support skill set remains in high demand. If we look at the snapshot of when CompTIA ran this report, they looked in 2022, they took a snapshot of total job openings. And it's important to note, the top part of the chart there, you see a reference to 10.7 million jobs. Those are jobs simply that referenced some basic computer literacy requirements, like a receptionist needing to know how to use Microsoft Office. When we look at the total, let's call it $15 million job openings, 4.2 million were specifically for IT support. So this chart really just supports the argument that IT support skills remain in high demand, making it difficult to find those skills and retain those skills. As we drill down into the next layer of the report, we looked at how are IT support people spending their times? And the number one focus for IT support people remains on day-to-day support, just making sure the lights are on, making sure the environment is up and happy, making sure end user issues are taken care of. However, of note within the report, categories related to technology evolution, adoption are significant and growing, really indicating a competing demand for time. This is not a new story. I've been talking to organizations for years, and I'm embarrassed to say decades. The challenge of how to keep the lights on yet move strategic projects forward is not a new challenge, but is gaining traction as far as a required focus. Really need to figure out how to balance the two. When we look at IT spend anticipated in 2023, on the left-hand chart side of the chart with the wheels, you'll see those are categories that are called really traditional IT spend. So this would be staffing, your tools, devices, data center, all those sorts of things. Those elements remain. But what's emerging, you'll see on the right-hand side in the purple, is really spending on emerging technologies. It's estimated that IT spend on emerging technologies will be approximately 30% in additional to traditional IT elements. What does that really mean? I don't know about you, but most organizations don't have an additional 30% to spend on IT. So they need to find a balance of cost savings or control within the traditional IT spend so money can be freed up to focus on emerging new technologies. So what? Really, to summarize findings from the IT CompTIA anticipated 2023 trends, the report really highlights attracting and retaining talent is a challenge that is not going away. There's an increasing requirement to focus on new technologies while keeping the lights on. And finally, the budgets for traditional IT services, specifically staffing, will not grow significantly because of the demands to spend money elsewhere. The great news is Quadbridge can help, and that brings us to really the topic of the day, fractional IT resourcing. We can do that through a few different approaches. First of all, IT staff augmentation. What is IT staff augmentation? It's really the ability to provide additional resource in your environment, adding qualified and skilled IT resources on demand, short-term, long-term, provides a quicker process than you hiring these folks on your own, and really you manage the day-to-day work. So we've seen a variety of ways that people are engaged in this type of work. It can be maybe to support a project. We have one client today that needed some additional help on their service desk, and we were able to help them out by fulfilling additional requirements on their desk. IT staff augmentation is a right fit for companies that need to bridge the gap between a departure and a new hire. As you know, it takes time to find the right staff, and you need to take time to find those right people. So we can help bridge the gap there. It's also a right fit for organizations with short or long-term employee absences. You know the person's coming back, perhaps you just don't know when, and you need help in the interim. Perhaps you need extra IT capacity, but not enough to justify a full-time permanent hire. Perhaps you're struggling to find and recruit qualified IT personnel in the competitive market space, or you require a specific skill set for a specific project or period of time. Finally, it may just be simply wanting to refocus your own internal IT team on key initiatives. Key benefits of IT staff augmentation: quickly add or replace IT resources. It is a cost-effective model, no hassles or administration. We find, put the people in front of you for interviews, you approve, manage the day-to-day, any staffing related issues we deal with. One of the key things that this solution delivers is a variety of expertise that's available. Again, you need a specific expertise, maybe it's IBM Power. We can snap it on for a period of time and then wrap it up when the project or the work is complete. Swappable resources, we can look at cycling people in and out, again, based on skill set or other demands. We do have flexible, full or part-time support. It allows organizations to easily ramp up or down IT resourcing with flexible contract options. So IT staff augmentation is one way to get the most bang from your buck on your IT spend, specifically as it relates to staffing. Another approach for fractional support is our managed IT packages. Managed services, managed IT packages can be fully outsourced, where we are fully responsible for all of your IT, or co-managed. We're seeing a growing demand for co-managed type of environments where the customer's IT team will continue to own some elements. We take on all our other elements and we work collaboratively to make the entire IT support solution whole. Managed services are really focused on proactive and reactive management of device supports, watching the screens, watching the red, yellow, green, addressing alerts, making sure that the environment is happy, healthy, and protected. Focused on end user support as well through our service desk, all under a predictable cost model with SLA. So we hold ourselves accountable to you for our performance. We have introduced 3 levels of support. You can think bronze, silver, gold, whatever approach you want to take. So IT Assist is really focused on a basic engagement where we provide the tool, you manage the alerts. So if you're looking for a remote monitoring management tool, you've got your own IT team, we can help out with that. Complete IT, I also call co-managed IT. So this is where we're managing some or all of the environment, but really not focused on providing service desk for end users. So again, this really fits well with co-managed environments where your IT team will continue to retain some responsibilities. We take on responsibilities and work on that support model together. And finally, Elite IT, which is a fully outsourced model, including service desk for end users. And it's really focused and fits well with organizations that have no IT, or you want to refocus your IT folks on other initiatives, those key projects, etc. So with our remote managed services, you can increase client and user service level and quality, improve the system uptime and performance, increase staff productivity, have cost predictability within your IT spend. We make sure that it's well aligned with your IT business needs and your overall business needs as well, and transparency into performance. Again, we hold ourselves accountable to you through our quarterly service reviews, where we provide a report card, monthly and weekly service touch points. And it can help reduce the total cost of IT management. Again, engaging us can often save portion or multiple headcounts depending on the service model that you desire. Helps improve your security and compliance exposure through patch management, etc. Helps protect against the risk of catastrophic data loss through some of our managed backup offerings. Puts us on call to address any emergency IT issues. And again, with the focus on monitoring and managing in that environment, reduce downtimes and reduce or eliminate lost productivity costs. So for our managed services, what are the key takeaways? And really the fractional services we've talked about today, the key takeaways are whether your organization is facing cost constraints or you're in a growth mode or maybe both. Organizations are looking for ways to optimize that spend, how to get more bang for the buck. We will continue to see a constraint on certified and experienced IT support and professional services folks. That will not go away. And finally, implementing a fractional resource model can increase the level of support while paying for only what you need. We just wanted to throw up a few case studies here of similar engagements, and these are all real engagements that we have in place today, the type of services the client engaged, and the estimated cost savings on an annual basis. Some pretty compelling data here. And I also want to just point out that this does not include any costs associated with hiring, training, departures. Unfortunately, if that's the case, those HR costs are excluded from this. So in one case, we've got a client in the healthcare industry. They've engaged us for a fractional VCIO role. So the VCIO only engages on a determined basis, helping drive their strategy forward, but without adding a full headcount. Secondly, a client in the manufacturing space have engaged us for remote monitored management. So we're monitoring the environment, providing end user service desk. We also have a client in legal who uses for both staff augmentation and remote managed services. So that's a great example where we've got a managed service contract. We're monitoring and managing the environment on an ongoing basis, but they also wanted to have someone on site a couple of days a week just to put an extra level of white glove service in front of the end users. And finally, an app dev organization who, again, rather than go and hire a dedicated headcount or multiple headcounts, engaged us for a managed services agreement that we work very closely with them on. So with that, thank you. We'll go back to Alvin for any questions you have. The recording will be provided after the webinar, and you can see you'll be able to click and contact us. And if you've got insomnia and need to sleep one night, you can also look at my LinkedIn profile. Alvin, back to you.
Thank you, Roger. Always insightful. No surprise there. And folks, if you have any questions, if you look at your screen on the bottom right-hand corner, you'll have a chat icon there, and more than happy to ask any of your questions, and I'll read them out for Roger here as well. I did get some through Teams, so please revert all of them to the Livestorm webinar. Roger, one question I did have here is, how do I get my IT leadership or IT team on board? And how do I convince the finance team?
That's a great question, Alvin, and thanks for whoever submitted that one. It can be a challenge. And one of the things that we work through as we're talking to a new client that might be interested in this type of engagement is, first of all, do you have an outsourcing mindset? If the people that are delivering the service today really prefer to build in-house, hire their own staff, etc., generally the conversation won't go very far. So that's an obstacle that you need to think about. However, to the question that's been posed, if you've got an outsourcing mindset, if you're open to exploring what an organization like Quadbridge can do to help improve the level of service, decrease costs, etc., some of the challenges faced, it's just helping people understand the value that outsourcing can bring, that we really are not approaching this from a threat perspective. It's not about putting people out of work, eliminating jobs. It's about allowing the people you have on staff to really focus on what's important to your organization and not looking at red, yellow, green lights on their screen to make sure a server's happy.
Awesome. Thank you, Roger. You mentioned about obstacles. This may be something similar here, but another question we had here was, what obstacles do companies run into moving forward with these kind of solutions?
We do see that. Thanks, Alvin. We definitely do see that, and that occurs often when there's been an IT team in place doing this support, doing this work, and they've been doing a great job. But they can be reluctant or resistant to the change. They can be reluctant to hand over the keys because it's new, it's different, and it can be perceived as a threat. And again, we really don't approach this as hey, here's how you can eliminate some jobs. It's really um, approaching and working with the folks to help them understand we're here to help them free up time to focus on what's really important. So one of the main obstacles we run into is just allowing people to engage, allowing us to engage and start to provide the support we've been engaged for, and opening them up to the concept that hey, they can go do some of those things that they've been wanting to do for a while but couldn't get to.
Great. And what does a co-managed environment typically look like, and who's responsible for what?
Yeah, identifying who is responsible for what is important in really every managed service engagement, but in a co-managed environment, it's critical. What we don't want is, well, first of all, we don't want something to be missed because the other party thought they were going to take care of it. But you also don't want to get into a blame sharing or a finger pointing game uh, where it just doesn't add value to move things forward. So within a co-managed environment, it is critical as we work through the agreement and onboarding to have a RACI chart that clearly defines responsibilities, et cetera, escalation points. So when something does go off the rails, because these are services, when you're delivering services, things will go off the rails. Um, when they do go off the rails, who do you escalate to? Who owns the agreements? But having that clearly delineated separation of responsibilities is key. We've got a client who has a small IT team of highly skilled individuals, and they take care of the application environment, a lot of key elements of their environment, while we make sure the infrastructure's up and running and healthy. So basically, we manage up to the OS level. They take care of everything beyond, and it works really, really well. But it comes back to ensuring those responsibilities are clearly delineated.
Excellent. And which manufacturers, examples Dell, HP, Cisco, or any environment, so which manufacturers do we support?
Wow, that's a great question. So the managed services provider purist, the MSP purist, would say we standardize on one suite of equipment, and this is our way of doing things. And there's a lot of value to do that. One of the things we bring to the table, though, from a Quadbridge perspective, is we don't start with a rip and replace model. Yes, we want to uh, make sure our managed services customers over time standardize on our preferred and chosen partners and equipment, but we don't come at it with a rip and replace immediately type of model. The tools that we have in place, back to the question, Alvin, around manufacturers, the tools we have in place are not specific to any certain manufacturer. We can monitor and manage across the full suite of physical, virtual servers, firewalls, switches, wireless access points, end user devices, et cetera. Our tools are capable of doing that. In some cases, we will use whatever tools are come with the device, um, just because that may offer an extra level of monitoring insight. But it's not, our services are not specific to any one manufacturer. Great question.
Thank you, Roger. Those are the questions I have here. If anyone has any other questions, please don't hesitate to pop in the chat there. And if those are all the questions we have left, I would also like to make an announcement also here of our winner of our draw that we did for the Bose speaker. And our winner here is Renas Tilly. Hope I said that right, Renas Tilly from Odyssey House Inc. So congratulations, and stay tuned. You will be getting a message from our marketing team as well. Um, Enjoy the speaker there. Hopefully you have a blast with that. And before we wrap up, I want to thank everyone here for joining this webinar. Once again, Roger, always a pleasure to have you on here. And you have Roger's contact information. We will be sharing this recording. It will be available to all of you that have joined here. Roger's email, LinkedIn contact would be there as well. And if you do have any questions, please reach out to your respective account manager at Quadbridge as well. More than happy to assist and even make a connection with Roger and the team as well. And with that, I'd like to wish everyone a fantastic day and hope to hear from you soon. And stay tuned for the next webinar as well. Take care, everyone.